They say the old Miron Hotel in the hills of Swat was shut down after a tragic fire. But the truth is far more terrifying. In 1998, 10 guests vanished overnight, leaving behind untouched meals, bloodstains, and the scent of burned sage in the air. No bodies were ever found. No suspects were arrested. Only one name remained scrawled in blood on the mirror of room 303, Aalaya. This is the story the government tried to bury, but evil doesn't stay buried for long. It was a fog-choked evening in late November when the guests arrived, each unaware they were walking into their final night. The Miron Hotel had just reopened after years of closure, rebranded with new paint and fake smiles. A promotional offer lured in 10 unsuspecting guests, couples, backpackers, a writer seeking solitude. All checked in before midnight. Among them was Shahbaz, a travel vlogger, known for chasing haunted places. He joked with the receptionist about the hotel's old legends. "Is this the one where the witch burned people alive?" He laughed. The receptionist, a pale, quiet man with eyes too wide, said nothing. Just handed over the key to room 303. The guests settled into their rooms as a storm raged outside. Thunder rattled the windows, and the lights flickered constantly. Some thought it was just bad weather, but others noticed odd things. The mirrors wouldn't reflect their movements correctly. Whispers came from under the bed. The elevator kept stopping at the third floor, even when no one called it. At precisely 3:03 a.m., a strange chant echoed through the halls, low and ancient, like a language older than time. One by one, the guests awoke, compelled to leave their rooms, drawn to the hallway, as if in a trance. And there, at the end of the corridor, stood a woman in black. Her eyes hollow, her mouth stitched, her feet hovering inches above the ground. The witch had returned. The guests stood frozen in the hallway, their minds clouded as if trapped between sleep and nightmare. The woman floated slowly toward them, her stitched mouth stretching wider with every step. Her presence felt like icy fingers crawling up their spines, a sickening mixture of death and decay following her like a shroud. Suddenly, the spell broke. A blood-curdling scream ripped through the corridor. Amina, a newlywed on her honeymoon, collapsed to the floor, convulsing. Her husband, Harris, tried to lift her, but her body twisted unnaturally, her eyes rolling back, lips moving in an ancient tongue. The woman in black disappeared in an instant, melted into the shadows. The others rushed back to their rooms, locking their doors and pushing furniture against them. Shahbaz, shaken but curious, grabbed his camera and began recording. "Something's happening here," he whispered. "This isn't folklore." He replayed the footage he had taken earlier that evening in the hallway. And there it was, just behind him in the frame, room 303's door slightly ajar, though no one had entered it. A faint silhouette stood inside, watching. But Shahbaz knew that room had been locked when he checked in. In room 204, another guest, Fazana, a middle-aged school teacher, prayed quietly with trembling hands. As she opened the drawer to find her prayer beads, she found a bundle of dried herbs and a slip of parchment. The writing was smeared, but she could make out one phrase: "She returns when forgotten. She feeds on silence." Just then, the lights died. Screams erupted from the floors above. The walls trembled. The old hotel came alive with whispers, thumps, and dragging sounds. And room 303's door creaked open again, on its own. A trail of ash began to spread through the hallway, moving like it was alive. The hotel was no longer a building, it was a prison, a tomb for the 10 souls trapped within its walls. Shahbaz rushed down the hall, camera still rolling, capturing the chaos unfolding before him. The whispers grew louder, not from any human lips but from the walls themselves, as if the hotel was speaking in tongues. He turned a corner, nearly bumping into Amina's husband, Harris. His eyes were wide with terror, his hands trembling as he clutched a torn page. "It's not just a witch," Harris gasped, breath ragged. "She was a woman, a healer once. But they burned her alive. The townsfolk did it, the fire, it was meant to destroy her magic. But her curse lives on." Shahbaz, confused and desperate for answers, took the page from Harris. The ink was smudged, but the words were clear enough to make out the tale of Aalaya, the witch who had once lived peacefully in the hills. She had been wrongly accused of dark magic after helping those who came to her for healing. The villagers, frightened of her power, tied her to a pyre and set it ablaze. But as she died, she cursed them all. Her final words had been an oath of revenge: "Those who forget my name will feel my wrath, and those who remember will pay the price of silence." The storm raged outside, thunder cracking as the hotel's foundation seemed to shift. The doors, those same cursed doors, began to open on their own. Room 303 was now wide open, an invitation to something unspeakable. The guests were no longer safe. Aalaya's spirit was awake. As the clock struck 3:03 a.m. again, the temperature plummeted. The air grew thick with the smell of burning sage and rot, as though the hotel itself was breathing, alive with malevolent energy. Shahbaz and Harris stood at the foot of room 303, both of them now fully aware of the danger they were in. Yet, something compelled them forward. "It's not over," Harris muttered, his voice quivering. "She won't stop until all of us are gone." The two men crept toward the doorway. The room was pitch black, save for the faint glow of the moon filtering through the cracked windows. Shahbaz felt the cold press of dread against his chest as he stepped inside, the wooden floor groaning underfoot. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. A cold voice whispered from the dark corner, "You shouldn't have come." They both spun around, but no one was there. The voice echoed through the room, coming from every direction. Then, from the shadows, the woman in black appeared again, her eyes hollow pits of despair, her mouth stretched into an eerie grin. "You woke me," she hissed. "Now you will join me." In a flash, the lights flickered and then went out completely. The sound of footsteps, slow, dragging, deliberate, resounded through the room. Shahbaz's heart raced, and for the first time, he felt truly helpless. Harris reached for the door, but his fingers brushed against something wet and warm. He looked down. The floor beneath them was soaked with blood, dark and viscous, spreading like a stain. Shahbaz turned to run, but the door wouldn't budge. A chilling laugh filled the room, and Aalaya's form became clearer, her ghastly face twisting in a macabre smile. Shahbaz's pulse hammered in his ears, his breath shallow as he pounded on the door, but the blood was rising, inching toward his feet. The room felt smaller now, the walls closing in, the air thick with despair and malice. Harris stumbled backward, his eyes wide in terror. "We're not going to make it out of here," Harris gasped, backing away from Aalaya's glowing figure. "The others, they're gone." Shahbaz's mind raced. He remembered the cryptic words Harris had read, the curse that followed those who had forgotten Aalaya. "She feeds on silence." The answer was so simple, yet so terrifying. "You have to speak her name," Shahbaz shouted, realizing the truth. "Say it. Say Aalaya's name. We have to make her hear us, bring her back from the shadows." Harris shook his head in disbelief. "You think saying her name will stop her?" "There's no other choice," Shahbaz urged, his voice trembling with the weight of his own fear. And so, with a hesitant breath, Harris whispered her name. "Aalaya." The room froze. Time itself seemed to hang in the balance. Aalaya's figure twisted violently, her mouth opening impossibly wide, as though the very sound of her name could tear her apart. The walls began to tremble, cracks spider-webbing across the once sturdy stone, as a deep, guttural growl filled the room. Aalaya's face contorted with rage, but then, as suddenly as she had appeared, she vanished. The blood receded. The room returned to stillness, the oppressive air lifting. The door creaked open, releasing them from their nightmare. As Shahbaz and Harris stumbled into the hallway, the first light of dawn broke through the windows. But behind them, room 303 remained open, waiting, as it always would be. The witch was not gone. She was simply biding her time. This story now closes the terrifying chapter of the Miran Hotel, leaving a lingering thought: is it truly over, or has Aalaya merely found new victims to lure into her eternal grasp?